Hello, hello. Okay, we're going to have a great conversation around government applications of blockchain, specifically Civic applications. So please join me in welcoming Michael AF, who's the founder of STARseed Technologies, Ramon Perez, who's the executive director of the Digital Democracy Project, and Fu Styles, who is an ambassador with Stand With Crypto and founder of the AI Crypto Council. This conversation is going to be led by Jonathan Murray, who is a XDC network ambassador with the XDC community. Thank you very much.
Is there an on button?
Check.
Check. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, Ian. Great show so far. Proud to be here. For this segment, as you mentioned, we're going to do government applications with a focus on civic participation. My name is Jonathan Murray, and for about 2 decades, I've been developing custom products and systems for large-scale companies, government applications. I hold a patent on industrial automation and large-scale edge computing for power industry. And when it comes to blockchain, I guess I'm fairly new to the industry. It's only been 4 years. Fu here, I guess, has been a decade or so exciting. I started as the head of operations at the XDC Foundation. It's a layer 1 blockchain. And today I focus on helping community members build their applications. And so I'm excited about this panel to talk about applications. All day, even yesterday, we've been talking about and listening to governments and how government and blockchain is changing, engaging in crypto, companies going public, the Genius Act for stablecoins. All of that's been discussed today. But there's been very little conversation about civic participation, right? How do we get the people involved? And so there was one piece of news during my evaluation, which was that the US published recent GDP data on chain. That's it. And so our panelists today are here to really focus and advocate for awareness of civic participation. And so let's dive in to get to know them. First, let's meet Fu Styles. Fu has been in the crypto industry for, I called it 8 years, but I guess Bitcoin since 2012. So Fu's been around as a founder, advisor, investor, and today she stands up here with us as an advocate for Stand With Crypto. So welcome, Fu. And can you give us a quick intro on your mission and Stand With Crypto?
So earlier this year, Stand With Crypto and Coinbase asked me to do some roundtable talks with some House of Representatives and legislators. And I was able to convey to them why we needed to pass the Genius Act, why we needed to pass the Clarity Bill. And so it happened, so that was really cool. The Genius Act got passed. So I went up to Capitol Hill quite a few times already. And the main thing about, I think, this particular panel was that I'm just a regular person, a founder, just like you, and I was able to talk to my representative and make a difference. And really, I wanted to convey that it is all of our responsibility, if we really believe in the work that we're doing in blockchain, that this is possible and you can impact legislation. So.
Awesome, thank you. Next we have Ramon Perez, pronounced right? Perfect. Founder of the Digital Democracy Project, bringing mobile voting apps and accountability systems to people. This is really the application, right? This is awesome. Can you give a quick intro to yourself, your mission, and just about the project at a high level?
Yeah, certainly, and I appreciate you guys hosting. Our goal is to empower voters to weigh in on legislation as it's being debated. So we're using mobile voting software. This is real election software that's now being used in several states to let people vote on their phones. It's on blockchain, provided by a company called Votes based here in Boston. And we're just using it for a different reason. We're using it to let people weigh in on legislation and tell their legislators how they want them to vote on bills that are being debated in Congress before a vote is cast on the floor. And then after that vote is cast, we compare what voters wanted in the app to how legislators actually voted on the floor on the same bills. So you get an apples to apples comparison to see how often are legislators actually doing what voters are asking them to do. The Genius Act was one of the bills we carried, by the way, which was a cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the basic idea. You know, we're trying to bring a blockchain-based and highly secure apparatus for binding elections, where we verify voters, we find them on the voter file, we verify their identity and all that, and just deliver a 21st century adaptation of writing your congressman a letter, something to that effect, but doing it in a scalable digital way on blockchain.
Yeah, awesome. Last, we have Michael AF. Now, I must admit, we all joked about this when we were talking, like, it's Michael AF, you know? But seriously, the founder of STARseed Technology and a dev, right? He's an architect of the State OS, a sovereign-grade infrastructure system built for public finance. And so, Michael, tell us about yourself, State OS, and how you're enabling civic participation.
Sure, thank you. So I'm a data scientist and at heart a reverse engineer. Got involved with state politics about 20 years ago, and recently, about 6 months ago, got to learn more about the state incentives from tax credits, rebates, vouchers, so forth, so on. And the biggest thing with states is they find themselves with economic leakage. And so based off the data science, fintech, and also blockchain, it led me to creating a solution at the state level. Right now we have a LOI with Louisiana. And the goal of it is to take these state credits or these state incentives, tokenize them, geofence them, and they must barter within the state. So based off of our framework, we now have 17 patents, 7 trademarks that it would actually add to the GDP of the discretionary funds that gets distributed. So we're looking forward to our test net. We are pre-revenue, but plan to have the proof of concept by December.
Awesome. Well, welcome all. Fu, let's kick this off. So you've seen the evolution of the crypto market, and you're out there advocating, talking to Congress all the time. Can you share a success story where Stand with Crypto has influenced safer or more private civic participation?
Well, I have actually a lot of metrics. So we have actually over 2.3 million crypto advocates that joined our movement. And we raised, or we have over 200 million in donations, so that helped with last year's election. So we're not bipartisan. And we have made over 800,000 policymaker contacts. And we registered over 100,000 pro-crypto voters in 5 key states. So that's a lot of work and success.
Yeah, that's awesome. And can you just give us a brief overview? I know right now you're pounding the streets and you're going to talk about the Clarity Act. Can you tell us why it's important for the people? I know we've heard about why it's important for banks and stablecoins, but why is it important for the people?
Well, for the everyday user, and also I'm going to say for builders, it's just such a gray area here, right? And so, like, being able to, like, I don't know if I can invest in this or invest in that. So they're putting in clear regulations so that it's safe for AML, KYC, for Americans to invest in things, and for builders. You know, oftentimes, like, I myself went abroad to Asia because I didn't think the regulatory framework here was safe to be building anything. So we want all these companies to build in America. You know, there's so many cool things that are happening, and we don't want it to go offshore. We want it there. So I think those are the 2 most important things. We need market structure. We need clarity. So.
Great. So we had a pre-talk, and I was doing a little bit of research on your project, Digital Democracy Project. And I think even talking with Fu, we're like, a voting app makes so much sense on blockchain, right? And then, but obviously in the US, there's no regulated ID, there's no national standard, but we talked and you're like, well, go look at India. So I did, and I couldn't believe it. They have a national blockchain technology strategy. They have a remote voting system, the digital rupee, their land records are on the blockchain, and just the list keeps on going on. It was wild. And so I want you to dive into some of the advancements and obviously the obstacles that we're faced with seeing the adoption in digital identification specifically.
Yeah, I mean, the India stack is really impressive, and it begs the question: why don't we have an America stack, right? Why aren't we leading on this issue? And in a lot of ways, why is our government so far behind? I mean, Brazil just did a huge participatory democracy test where millions of participants were able to verify their identity using their digital identification framework. Weigh in on public ideas that were being floated by the government, determine what they want to prioritize, and had millions of participants, and then used AI to kind of do some topic modeling and summarize and prioritize based on what people's interests were. And that was all using open source, using decentralized technology, and it begs the question, why can't we do that here? And a lot of my motivation for coming here and talking to this crowd is to find people working on pieces like that, because I've been working with a lot of folks in the deliberative space around something like an America stack. How do we get to a national deliberative infrastructure, which I would like to see we're currently using the Votes blockchain, which is built on Hyperledger Fabric. That's a commercial blockchain that's permissioned and all that, but I would like to see us get to a public blockchain for voting, right? That can still respect the secret ballot and the need to protect my private ballot, but still authenticate me against a voter file in a digitally cryptographically secure manner. So that's where we really need to get to. And I also just want to state really quickly, I don't know if you guys saw the news. It's been going on right now, but Charlie Kirk was shot at an event today. And whether you agree with the man or not is irrelevant. The fact that he was shot for stating an opinion, it tells me that the level of political violence in this country means we have lost the capacity to talk to one another. And so much of the motivation for Digital Democracy Project is when you take people out of that two-party system where they're constantly pitted against one another in a tribal fashion, and you give people a chance to actually just weigh in on the issues, you find that we're just not that far apart. There's a lot of gray area where people want to participate, and a lot of these tools can make that possible in a way that our sort of traditional election system and two-party system has failed to do.
So, two questions, I guess. One would be, how are you currently looking at ID? How does your platform manage the ID? And then the second one is, some people don't, for the reasons you just explained, don't want their vote known for anonymity reasons, right? How do you solve those problems?
Yeah, ID is basically the same way that you see kind of PayPal and Venmo doing it, where you upload a photo ID, you match it against a selfie scan, you have to do a liveness check, then it finds you on the voter file for your respective state. But honestly, that whole process is clunky and should be replaced with a token-based identification, cryptographically secure identity token, and nobody's really got a good solution. That is the best solution in the market currently, but it's fraught with challenges. Obviously, people move, they don't update their address, their driver's license no longer matches their registration, blah 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 blah, and so that's a challenge. The second part to your question, I'm sorry. It's a secret ballot. Yes,
yeah.
Right. So that's one of the reasons we chose to partner with Votes, was because they were designed as election software specifically to protect the secret ballot. So nothing goes on chain that is not encrypting PII. And actually, even that is, they've been trying to design to be sort of quantum safe in the expectation that a lot of the cryptography will be broken at some point. So even limiting what PII goes on chain, so that it's really just a vote token that goes on chain and can be decrypted once it comes off chain to verify for auditability purposes.
Sounds like some ZK sync needs to go on in there. Sorry. Fu, any idea on how Stand with Crypto could amplify this participation in voting and on chain, or anything you're seeing on the ground that could bring this?
Yeah, I mean, we're all about getting people to use your stuff. So we would love to. I want to create a meeting with you immediately. What you're doing is incredible. I mean,
Likewise.
thank you. But yeah, I mean, we can get you people, numbers, and we'll get them to use this.
You heard it on stage.
I mean, well, I'm just an ambassador, but I'm going to go talk to the people at the top. So.
I mean, I believe it's going to take all of us as a community effort. I mean, this is what we actually did this as a nonprofit. You know, Votes is a for-profit selling to supervisors of elections. That's their main market. We did this as a nonprofit because of the belief that not only do we need to be nonpartisan, but we need to design a community of effort if we want to save this democracy from the forces tearing us apart. I mean, we need to be honest about the threats that we're under right now because, again, look at what happened with Charlie today. Yeah. Okay, political violence knows no partisan. It's coming for everybody. We got to be, so we as developers and designers in this community have a real part to play in building the infrastructure and tooling that can bring us a 21st century version of democracy.
I mean, you just segued. You could have read my notes. I want to switch over to Michael. So Ramon is building this application, right, for voting, but it doesn't come without transparency to make your decisions. And what you're doing at StateOS, it's just awesome. So can you walk us through the types of data that StateOS will be able to provide for financial oversights, for like public funding, and help make better decisions?
Yeah, sure. So the biggest thing, as these dedications go out, the auditability is like a 6-month delay. So some of these policymakers, lawmakers, they're dedicating funds, but it's like 6 months of manual audits. So with the blockchain technology, distributed ledger technology, you're able to get real-time auditing, real-time traceability, immutability to help from any manipulation. So from the standpoint of having this tokenized funds at a state level allows for lawmakers and policymakers to make better decisions in real time. And I think that's the beauty of this technology. It's obviously got more developments as we go. But from our standpoint, it's once we're able to show the proof of concept on our end, I think the policymakers are going to see this as an open lane to start adopting more so.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, having talked to policymakers, there is so much information that they need help with. And as a community advocate, trying to put working groups together to help educate them, I think this would be very helpful. So.
Yeah, I want to pile into that too, because I think it's amazing work, because what we do at Digital Democracy Project requires people who are out like you creating data that we rely on. For example, just scraping public websites just to tell us which legislator voted on what so we can pull that into our system. We've always wanted to do participatory budgeting, but getting actual budget data from the state level and seeing how appropriations are done is very difficult. Getting that data is hard. So I love the fact that you guys are basically putting it on chain because it makes it so visible, right? So to be even able to say as a voter, we would love to be able to put it into an app and say, what are your priorities for spending, and then match that up against the actual appropriations, how money flows happen. So I think that's super cool.
Thank you. And a few other features as well is going to be AI components. So the policymakers and lawmakers from the data collections and aggregations, that as they're building their next proposal, that it would have some machine learning to be able to assist as well. So.
And what are you going to need for your proof of concept? Just so, if I can help.
Yeah, we'll get together on that.
I mean, she's already bringing people over there, so she can bring you something too. He stepped over it though, but I want to step back a little bit. 17 patents, holy smokes. I found it fascinating that you're looking to recapture the local economic velocity. And can you bring me through the technology that assists this?
Sure. So, I've been on different sides of the financial space, the ups, the downs, rounds and rounds. And so anyways, I just dove into learning more about it. How can technology advance my learning and understanding? And so seeing how banks functions, how bartering systems function, how these dedicated funds work, that if states are able to utilize their existing funds without raising taxes and able to barter them geo-fenced, the magic number is 7, 7 cycles gives an economic velocity rate before it off-ramps. So right now with the states, their economic leakage is about 90 to 100%. So it's a straight expense. With our system, with State OS, it actually reduces that down to 40%. And so then it can off-ramp. So with that is from the state I'm from, Louisiana, the teachers have been wanting a raise for years. And so based off that, the lawmakers are saying it will cost $200 million annually. Well, that would be a straight expense. That would have to be increased taxes. With our system, they could actually budget it out, allocate it, and it would pay for itself in 4 years.
Wild. And you talked a lot of AI bringing that functionality to the people. Looking at your platform, reading some of the fine print, it talked about using AI to sort of take a bipartisanship translation on the bills. And so I want to ask, how are you making sure that truly is bipartisan? How are you training the AI?
Yeah.
Like, bring us through that.
So when we actually started, I'm a Florida boy. I grew up in Miami, and we actually started with the Florida legislature because it's a shorter session. We were reading the bills and summarizing the bills. So I had a Republican, a Democrat, and an independent working together to read these bills and summarize and check each other. But like the volume of legislation was just the ones that get voted on. You'd have anywhere between 50 and 100 bills in any given session. You're talking many thousands of pages of legalese. It was a lot of work. We couldn't even keep up with the volume of it. And so we actually, almost like manna from heaven, AI sort of dropped in our lap, and we're like, oh, we should use this to sort of accelerate our process. And we still keep the human in the loop to check the outputs, but now the first draft is basically, at this point, we're at a GPT-4 implementation for the summarization, and I could talk about the latest 5 implementation, but GPT-4 implementation for reading the legislation and giving us a human summary of what is this, esoteric legal language, as well as breaking down what are the pros and cons of a given bill. How does it affect me? Why should I support or oppose this bill? Who are the organizations that support or oppose this bill? A lot of that stuff would have taken countless research time and now has been incredibly accelerated by AI. But yes, you do have to keep human in the loop. One, hallucinations. You kind of sometimes just get garbage. So we put layers of checks where multiple models will check each other. 2 is we do maintain vector databases of prior legislation or vector databases of our kind of internal site and that kind of stuff.
Do you use your own models, sort of cross-check?
So we do not custom train models. These are out-of-the-box models that we're using RAG implementation. Okay. So it's a vector database of all of our prior documents that have been written the way we want them to written, the prompts designed the way we want them to, but it is just a RAG implementation, not a fine-tuning of one of the large models.
Gotcha. It feels like we were matchmaking up here today with voting and state-based apps. How might the tokenized incentives from your application reward civic participation and encourage more people to sort of vote?
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, the voters have the voice, so, they obviously want transparency. I mean, witnessing some of the waste, especially at a state level, much less a federal level, voters able to know where the money's going. One of my biggest goals is to remove income tax. And so one of our features is a DFT, a digital fair tax. And so it pays upon consumption. And so with that to me, that's a huge incentive. So I think between technology and just voter participation, that the people's voice will be heard to know where's the money going. And so it's a downstream effect. But with the real-time auditability and traceability, I think gives the value. So,
yeah, I guess I'll reframe it a little bit for you. Yeah. Can you gamify your application?
That's what I was going to say. That sounds cool. I was like, man, it would be great if you could essentially get tokens based on civic participation. right? I mean, that would be amazing. Like, you're basically reducing your tax burden by participating in various forms of civic engagement. That'd be amazing.
Would you participate?
Of course.
Oh, man. All right, we have 5 minutes. Let me sort of open it up to all of you. Maybe we'll start with Fu. How will digital democracy tools using blockchain and AI technologies simplify the access to government services for everyday citizens?
Well, the idea of using DIDs and biometrics to me are like the pinnacle of what we need in today's society. You know, I have lived in Shenzhen, China for a year and saw that they were already doing these things. And it was just like so easy to move about my everyday life, from payments to doing everything. And I was just like, why don't we have that in America? So I think that's what we need to get to. And, you know, like now we can do finally payments with the QR code, but we were doing that like 10 years ago in Asia. So
Yeah.
but I'm excited that you guys are putting this technology together so we can finally do this.
Ramon?
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like we're behind in so many ways, which is mind-boggling, given the level of expertise in this country. But so much of it comes to our sclerotic political system, where a lot of innovation goes to die. I mean, just being honest. So a lot of that's why we're having to do it outside of the political system, and find friends and allies working in this space to kind of build these things ourselves, because we can't guarantee that the government will. We actually did have government sponsorship for our work, a bipartisan appropriation in the Florida legislature that we spent a lot of time working on with a lot of senators and members of the House of both parties, and then it was line item vetoed by Ron DeSantis. So you can't guarantee that government will step in and take and push this innovation forward. So we really have to take the use cases to government, and hopefully they'll see the value in it enough. But ultimately, once enough voters get on board, it's almost like government is forced to adopt, realistically.
Yeah, we can go to Michael here. I mean, you are building the technology for people to use, right? And you have a LOI with Louisiana. Like, what's the life cycle going to be of adoption there?
Yeah, so the way to get the adoption, it's going to have to be public-private partnership. So, our goal is to lock in 10, 20-year contracts. So this is building the digital infrastructure of the roads, streets, and bridges of how states function, from finance, from data, just how anything moves within a state level. So with that approach is you need folks to take a chance, be visionaries. It's just a matter of time. It's happening. We're witnessing, we're seeing it. It's at a rapid pace. And I think that there are state leaders that's willing to take a chance, but I think it's a collective. And once the meeting of the minds happen, the results are going to showcase, and it's going to be a downstream wealth effect. I think it really will. And so that transparency is going to add cost savings, reduction of waste, and just total overall welfare improvement.
Awesome. Well, we have a minute left. Thank you all. This has been a pleasure. Even meeting you guys, it's been fun backstage and talking on stage too. It's been great. Any final thoughts or words for the show?
I'll reiterate the point that I hope that Charlie pulls out of this today, because again, nobody should be shot for expressing an opinion. Right? Well, yeah. So, these are solemn reminders of why we do this work. Why we do this work, why we are here, why we put in the work, why we build, why we would continue to try to find our community, because if we don't solve this problem, it's just going to get worse, all right? And it doesn't matter your political persuasion. The reality is, like, people are losing the capacity to talk to each other and solve problems together, and that's what we have to fix.
I like to really make it an important part that, everybody's voices here needs to be heard, and you can talk to your legislator about what you're building anytime. And if you, this is why actually I started the AI in Crypto Council. So if you're building something and you need some advocacy, come and talk to me. I will happily represent you. But if you can't, speak for yourself. But I would love to work with everyone who's building something.
Any closing thoughts?
I think going back to it, it's a collective. We're all human beings trying to live out this human experience and match it with technology and just able to make better days. And so anyways, I'm just happy to be here. And truthfully, going even back to the whole political realm, on top of that, mental health is obviously a big deal. So I'm a witness of that. And as I stated, I'm just happy to be here. So thank y'all.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, and they have really cool tattoos, if you guys haven't noticed.
Yeah. I feel out of place. I don't know what would you.
Thank you, everyone.